In 1981, Jeff Bogard returns to his home of Southtown, USA, alongside his master Tung Fu Rue, who has recently bestowed Jeff with the secrets of the Hakyok fighting style, officially labelling him as his successor. Upon his return to Southtown, Jeff meets two orphaned children named Terry and Andy and decides to adopt them as his own sons. The three soon become an inseparable family, with Jeff hoping to see his sons follow in his footsteps as Hakyok masters. One day, however, while Terry and Andy play in the street near their home, Jeff is confronted by none other than Geese Howard, a former student of Tung Fu Rue's alongside Jeff that had once been considered to be his successor. Having felt the evil within Geese's heart, however, Tung Fu Rue declined to teach Geese the secrets of Hakyok, instead choosing the pure-hearted Jeff as his successor. Filled with rage at what he saw as betrayal, Geese would leave Tung Fu Rue's teachings and begin building a criminal empire, eventually overthrowing the reigning kingpin Mr. Big and becoming the de facto crime lord of his home of Southtown, which he shrouds under the veil of his corporation, the Howard Connection. Now with his own personal army of criminals under his disposal and almost free reign to break any law he wants within Southtown, Geese wastes no time in engaging Jeff in a fight upon his return, and brutally beats his former training partner to death. As Geese prepares to leave, he witnesses the 10-year-old Terry return home to see Jeff's lifeless body on the ground. The traumatized child can only look at his father's killer in shock and anger before he leaves, feeling that he was unable to do anything to save Jeff. After telling his 9-year-old brother Andy of what has happened, the two Bogard brothers swear to train themselves in order to one day confront Geese and avenge their father's death. Upon learning of Jeff's murder at the hands of Geese, a depressed Tung Fu Rue promptly abandons the idea of teaching his fighting style to another student, not wanting to repeat the tragedy of jealousy claiming the life of another apprentice. Terry plans to continue using the Hakyok style his father had begun teaching them, deciding to travel across the country in order to gain the strength, knowledge and experience he needs to one day defeat Geese. Andy, however, decides to leave their home country and travel around the world as a means of both experiencing the many fighting styles the world has to offer, as well as distinguishing himself from his brother by walking a different path. Time soon passes by, and eventually the year is 1991, 10 years after Jeff Bogard's death. Geese Howard celebrates his continued success as both a businessman and crime kingpin by announcing another King of Fighters tournament, having hosted the fighting competition every year since his return to Southtown. Geese's champion is Billy Khan, his loyal bodyguard and right-hand man, who has been the undefeated winner of the King of Fighters tournament for 10 years in a row. Having grown up in London as a lowly street orphan alongside his youngest sister Lily, Billy was scouted by Geese while the crime lord was on a business trip in Europe, with them having taken the siblings in after seeing Billy's skill with a bow staff. As a result, Billy is fiercely loyal to Geese and has no qualms in dealing with his boss's dirty work as payment for saving him and his sister from their former life. With another King of Fighters tournament announced, word soon hits Terry and Andy Bogard, who decide that their 10 years of training have made them strong enough to take on Geese. Having spent the last 10 years wandering the country, combining the skills learned from his father, street fighting and what little he could gain from Tung Fu Rue, the now 20-year-old Terry Bogard soon makes his way back to Southtown, ready to take on Geese Howard. Andy Bogard, meanwhile, has spent the last 10 years in Japan training in the Shiranui ninjutsu arts under Hanzo Shiranui, an old acquaintance of both Tung Fu Rue and his father Jeff. Upon hearing of the upcoming KOF tournament, as well as Terry's impending return to Southtown, the 19-year-old Andy decides now is the time to also return home, having become an incredibly skilled ninjutsu practitioner in his own right. After returning to Southtown, the two brothers reunite for the first time in 10 years and make sure to pay their respects at the grave of Jeff before making their way to the tournament. The return of Terry and Andy sparks interest in the people of Southtown as they wonder if any of the Bogards are strong enough to defeat Billy and claim victory. What the people find more interesting, however, is the sudden influx of competitors from around the world who arrive in Southtown looking for the glory of being the KOF champion. One such foreign competitor is the Japanese Muay Thai practitioner Joe Higashi, who has come to Southtown in the hopes of proving himself, having held the title of Muay Thai champion in Thailand for many years. Joe eventually meets Terry and Andy, who inform him of both the ongoings of the city as well as their quest to defeat Geese and avenge their father. Inspired by their tragic past and honourable goal, Joe offers his assistance to the Bogard brothers in defeating Geese and his criminal empire. The brothers accept Joe's help and the three soon become steadfast friends. Terry, Andy and Joe soon decide to forego their chances of winning the tournament legitimately by teaming up together in order to confront Geese. In order to achieve their shared goal, the three come up with a plan that relies on them eliminating the other competitors together and facing Geese as a trio. This plan soon draws the attention of those following the tournament, leading to the three being given the nickname of the Lonely Wolves by the people of Southtown, reflecting both their origins and their opposition to Geese's criminal empire. Alongside Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard, Joe Higashi and Billy Khan, 6 other competitors enter Geese Howard's King of Fighters tournament. After multiple years using his fighting style to entertain in various clubs around the world, the Brazilian capoeira master Richard Mayer journeyed to Southtown to set up the Pow Pow Cafe, acting as both the barman and bouncer. Richard hopes to use his entry in the tournament to promote the Pow Pow Cafe in the hopes of gaining a bigger crowd of patrons and becoming the biggest club in Southtown. Michael Max was once a former undefeated heavyweight boxer who was destined to remain at the top of the boxing world for many years, until his involvement in a street fight nearly resulted in the death of his opponent. Banned from professional boxing as a result, Michael plans to compete in the upcoming King of Fighters tournament in order to reclaim both his lost glory as well as the thrill he gets from his fights. Tung Fu Roo makes a surprising entry into Geese's tournament to seemingly face Geese in his own plan of revenge for the murder of his planned successor Jeff Bogard. Duck King is a cheerful dancing fighter who once lost in a street fight against Terry Bogard sometime during his 10-year journey across the country. Duck King enters the tournament in the hopes of improving his dancing skills and clashing with his friendly rival Terry yet again. Hua Jai is a former Muay Thai champion who lost his title after being defeated by Joe Higashi and has since become determined to destroy him and regain his place at the top of the Muay Thai world. Convinced that his fighting style needs to be more violent and brutal in order to defeat Joe, Hua Jai began killing thugs as he trained, eventually leading to him being shunned by the martial arts world. Having lost everything, Hua Jai is eventually recruited by Geese Howard after noticing his strength and soon becomes his loyal subordinate, and is determined to kill Joe Higashi in order to avenge what he has lost. Raiden is a professional wrestler from Australia, where his position as an evil heel wrestler leads to his reputation as being excessively ruthless in the ring, having hurt many of the opponents that he faces. After eventually leaving his home behind to journey to Southtown in search of even stronger opponents, Raiden's reputation for manhandling his opponents grows and he eventually draws the attention of Geese Howard. Raiden is hired by Geese to be one of the many henchmen serving in his criminal empire and enters the tournament to serve as a powerful brick wall for the other competitors to get through. With the competitors gathered, Terry, Andy and Joe enact their plan and disregard their own matches to get through the other entrants more efficiently so that they can face Geese Howard together. The first round of fights goes smoothly for the Lonely Wolves, with Richard Meyer and Michael Max being defeated by the three. This soon draws the attention of Geese, who begins to notice the strength of the Lonely Wolves but is convinced that they will soon falter in their upcoming matches. Terry and Andy are soon faced by Tung Fu Roo, who gladly takes on the Bogard brothers. Despite Tung Fu Roo's strong Hakyok powers and ability to build his chi across his entire body, the two are able to defeat Tung. Proud of what the sons of Jeff have accomplished across the last 10 years of training, Tung Fu Roo tells the two that he had actually entered the tournament in the hopes of seeing for himself if Terry and Andy had the strength needed to face Geese Howard. Now convinced that the brothers are strong enough to do so, Tung Fu Roo happily bows out of the tournament, leaving the Lonely Wolves to continue their journey through the competition. Geese meanwhile grows frustrated as he orders one of his henchmen to get any information he can find on the identities and backstories of the Lonely Wolves, having grown suspicious of all three of them. After Duck King is defeated by the Lonely Wolves, Geese is informed of the identities of Terry, Joe and Andy. Geese is shocked to hear that the sons of Jeff Bogard have come to Southtown to face him, having forgotten that Jeff adopted the two orphans in the 10 years since taking his life. Now determined to make sure the three Lonely Wolves don't get any further, Geese sends his henchmen to defeat them and end their goal of confronting him before it even begins. Hua Jai leaps at the chance to take Joe Higashi on and faces him in battle, but Joe is once again able to defeat him, though the fight is much closer than their previous bouts. With his new focus on brutality having failed him, Hua Jai finally realises that he had only lost to Joe due to his weak mindset and spirit. Wanting to reform himself, Hua Jai apologises to Joe and severs his ties with Geese, no longer wanting to serve as his henchman. With Hua Jai's support behind him, Joe feels more determined than ever to move on in the tournament, but soon finds that the injuries he sustained in the fight might be more severe than he had initially thought. Meanwhile, Andy Bogard is confronted by Raiden and engages him in battle. The fight is long and brutal, with Raiden manhandling Andy to an extreme degree. Despite the odds being stacked against him, however, Andy is able to overcome Raiden and defeats him. The Lonely Wolves eventually reunite, but Andy and Joe soon realise that the injuries they received in their respective fights are too severe to allow them to carry on and face Geese. Left with no other choice, the two reluctantly allow Terry to continue on without them, but promise to join him once their injuries are healed. Terry Bogard, now a singular lone wolf, continues on with the tournament solo as the livid Geese vows to kill him like he did Jeff Bogard 10 years ago, promising to punish him for his continued disruption of his plans. Terry eventually makes his way to the finals of the King of Fighters tournament, where he faces Billy Khan one-on-one. The two clash in an unforgettable match in front of a roaring crowd, with Terry eventually being able to one-up Geese's personal bodyguard and defeat him. With Terry's victory, he is crowned the new winner of the King of Fighters tournament, ending Billy's historic undefeated streak. As Terry celebrates at the winner's podium, he is suddenly grabbed by Geese's henchmen, who inform Terry that Geese has summoned him. Upon coming to, Terry discovers that he is confronted by none other than Geese Howard. Terry vows to gain revenge for his father's death, but Geese instead promises to kill Terry for him ruining his plans of dominating Southtown even further. Terry and Geese then face each other at the top of Geese Tower in a legendary battle, with even Terry struggling against the might of Geese. However, Terry soon manages to gain the upper hand and is able to defeat Geese. Refusing to stay down, however, Geese soon rises to his feet, forcing Terry to deliver one final kick to put him down for good. However, the impact of Terry's kick inadvertently sends Geese crashing over the edge of Geese Tower and plummeting to the city streets below. Following his fall from his tower, word begins to spread around Southtown that Geese Howard eventually died in a nearby hospital as a result of his injuries. With Geese assumed dead, the King of Fighters tournament ends in a buzz of chaos as those involved return to their normal lives. Joe bids his new friends goodbye and leaves Southtown to return to Thailand with Hwa Jai, hoping to live up to the growing legend of Joe Hurricane Upper Higashi. Feeling a mixed sense of closure at Geese's death, Andy returns to Japan to continue his training under Hanzo Shiranui and too bids his brother and Joe farewell. Though he feels conflicted at having taken Geese's life, Terry is content at having avenged his father's death and decides to stay in Southtown, where the actions of both himself and the other Lonely Wolves has started to spread, leading to the beginning of a new Southtown legend.
We await your return, warrior.